Welcome to Funnel Reboot, the podcast that shares ideas on how to upgrade your lead generation. Here is your host, Glenn Schmeltzley.
Hey, Glenn here. Welcome to Funnel Reboot. This show is going to feel like something out of Undercover Boss. I'll tell you how in a sec. First, though, please do let me know whether you enjoy the show or if you've got a critique. You can reach out on any social channel. You can reach out via Funnel Reboot, the website, or you can contact me directly on any social channel you want. I'd love to hear from you. To today's show. No matter which side of the agency brand fence you are on, I'm sure you think you know what it's like to be on the other side. Regardless of our good intentions, the reality is that we approach the work from different angles, and that blocks our ability to see it from another's perspective. One undertaking that all of us get the same view of, though, is a website overhaul. It's a project that feels grueling for anyone, agency side or client side, and yet the learning that we can all come away with helps us be more empathetic to coworkers and outside team members that we work with. Today's guest knows that all too well. She's the CEO of Drive Traffic, a marketing and web design agency in Ottawa, where she also provides fractional chief marketing officer services that guides companies' digital marketing strategies. In addition to being a long-time independent marketer, she's worked at Yellow Pages, building out their search engine marketing practice. She has degrees from both University of Ottawa and Carleton University, and is an unapologetic dog lover. Join now as we hear from Darlene Moore. Welcome, Darlene Moore. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Glenn. It's been a long time. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, so I'll begin with explaining we know each other, and we both live in the same city, and we both work in marketing services. And tell me a little bit about the firm that you run.
So I run Drive Traffic Digital Marketing, and I've been at it for, I'm going to say somewhere around 17 years. I'm not sure that my math skills go that far back. And I think you and I crossed paths sort of on the earlier end, early to mid side of that journey compared to where we are now.
Egads. Yeah. Yes, I think we did. And we've also had websites for quite some time, and I know we've both had blogs for some time. That really brings us to what we're going to talk about today, which is how do you overhaul a website? And it's something that is going to hit, no matter whether you're client side or agency side, it's something that a marketer is going to encounter sooner or later, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
And when it's your own and objectivity is somewhat hard to come by, it can really be taxing. Am I right?
Absolutely, Glenn. We talked about this before I started and during the process, and it is really difficult, but it is a good experience to go through to help you understand what the client is going through.
Right. So let's begin with your own story. So Drive Traffic's website, set the stage for me, bring me up until the point where, Darlene slammed her fist on the desk and said, I'm going to make a change. But, tell me what platform it has been on. Tell me kind of what's there. Just give me the lowdown.
So interestingly, it's always been on WordPress. My first website was green and white when I worked under DM Consulting, and it was WordPress, and the website was done for free, in exchange for doing some SEO work. So I guess that's not free. Long time ago by a colleague that I'm still in touch with, who's a fabulous designer. And Eileen Moore, shout out to her, no relation. And we lost track and then found each other on Facebook many, many years later. So that was my first rendition. And then I don't quite recall when I moved to the Drive Traffic brand, but I think it was still on the same website. Maybe she just
Right.
changed the logo. And then after a 4-year stint where I was an employee and not doing much with my own website, I had been working for Yellow Pages, managing a team. And when I got laid off from there, it was time to resurrect my website, pull it out of the catacombs, as I think you referred to some of your pages. And I hired a local company. I had seen them on somebody's website that I liked. So I met somebody at a networking event, looked at their website, liked it, saw who the creator was, the webmaster in the footer. So
Yeah.
while something is not beneficial for SEO, it is beneficial for brand awareness. And I hired them,
Sure.
and I was delighted with the website that they built. We are going back at least 8 years now, I think, when they built that. And the current rendition of that website had become just non-usable, non-functionable. When we would make edits to pages, we couldn't save them. There was always some sort of
Ooh.
crisis going on behind the scenes. It was safely backed
Yes.
up, but you couldn't, you just couldn't do much. I was using somewhere along the line a platform. Give me a name that a lot of people like for editing. It wasn't Elementor.
Right. Maybe Divi.
Yeah, it was Divi. Yeah, I have to
Yeah.
say I'm not in love with Divi as an old school HTMLer. I'm not
Right.
in love with either Divi or Elementor. But that's okay. I have people to make the changes now, and
Right.
yeah. So it got to the point in the past year where I just couldn't have any of the things that I wanted on my website and no new features. Editing content became a struggle. And so it became a reality that I would need to rebuild the website. And I always knew it would remain on WordPress. That works well for me. And I wanted to overhaul the design a little bit. I wanted to overhaul the content a great deal. But more or less, I just wanted it to work smoothly and be able to save pages.
This is one of the times where a website happens. There are other triggers. One would be that you're changing the array of services being offered, that you have completely different messaging and you've repositioned yourself, right? Now, these are the four most dangerous words whenever someone is rebuilding something is while we're at it.
Oh gosh.
But
yes.
Did you have any of those while we're at it, like elements that you said, if I'm going to go through all this trouble, I might as well?
Yes. So what I wanted to do, the SEO person in me, wanted to get rid of old content, talking about platforms that nobody uses anymore,
Right.
and try to stick to content that is truer to the services I deliver today. So I did that work of identifying what's not performing and where we should redirect it to. Somehow that work never got implemented. I think because the website was transferred at a time when I was doing this. And then during the build of the website, the URL structure changed, for example, from products to services. And
Yes.
things were just so busy with the launch of the site that I didn't get around to doing this myriad of 301 redirects. All this effort I spent and my team spent on this spreadsheet of redirects was basically not going to work now. So I took notes from clients I work with all the time where I don't want them to launch until everything is perfect. and I launched before things were perfect and decided that every single day I would spend 5 minutes doing redirects as needed. So I set up a Google Analytics report that just tells me what pages somebody visited that were not found the previous day. And
Yes.
I redirect those as they go. Well, I have to
You
say,
played
this is
whack-a-mole.
way,
Yeah.
right? But this is way easier than running a tool that tells you about all the broken pages you have. The
Yeah.
difference is nobody's visiting those pages. So it doesn't matter right now if they are redirected, in theory.
Yeah. Excellent point. So while, and thank you for, being upfront that it it's something that was originally missed. You found a hack that kind of got you what you had originally intended, but in a way that wasn't so much work.
Absolutely. We are not, our websites and most of our clients are not the Amazons or Shopify's or
Yeah.
Facebooks or Google's of the world. I don't know about you, but I'm a couple steps below Google, in terms of the importance of my website. So if there's a couple of broken pages, the odd bad user experience, while it makes me hang my head in shame,
Right.
it is not going to make or break my business. And it seems I made sure to do a very fun 404 page. That was important to me so that if I
Nice.
did inconvenience people in the process, maybe there was a little levity on the screen and that would encourage them to go elsewhere on the website and
Yeah.
not run away frustrated.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's an excellent little piece, and it reminds them that the sites, as one person said it to me, the ink on digital is never dry.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think more than ever that is true. It's almost like we're daily you make changes to your business and those changes have to be reflected on your website as well.
Yes, and that if you imagine that your website is like a pristine marble statue or something, you will be too afraid to change it when you really ought to be. Yeah, great point.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
talked about the back end being problematic. Can you share with me any details on what it was in the actual changeover of the website for, let's say, WordPress geeks that are listening? Was it at the theme level, or can you give me a little bit more so that I understand um, what you were actually changing and what it was supposed to improve?
So nobody was ever really clear on where the problems were coming from. Where I'd make a change to a page, save it, and you thought everything was okay, and then a day later you realize it didn't stick. Or when you go to save, you get an error. And it was probably bogged down by a number of plugins. WordPress was always up to date, the theme up to date, that sort of idea. But everything was older. And at some
Yeah,
point, there'd been a lot of hacks along the way.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I
Cruft,
really
as we
don't
like to
know.
call it.
Right? I felt that rather than taking the time of a developer to troubleshoot, that the time was better reallocated to moving forward with a new site, with a new skin, refreshed content, that sort of idea. And I really
All
do
right.
think it was the way to go. Our websites are for us as much as they are for our clients sometimes or prospects. And right now, I'm still enjoying looking at my new website.
That's great. Um, the so did you actually do a switch over, and you were staying on the same CMS, but did I hear you right that there was a cutover where you actually went into your control panel and said, okay, from here on out, use these files for the core WordPress and everything on top. Is that how deep you went?
I would not be able to answer that question for you because I'm not the one who, does the day-to-day back end stuff.
Right. But it sounds like it was soup to nuts.
So it was. So what we did is installed WordPress on a new domain and a new theme.
There you go.
And played with the theme for a while. When we ported the content over, it did not go well at all. So that took a lot of posting in groups on my part to find solutions because sometimes people will come back to you and say such and such didn't work. I am not manually going to edit 200 blog posts, nor is anybody else who gets paid. Those blog posts are going to be trashed long before they get edited. There's no return on investment from that work. So, but I posted in some groups and found a plugin. Some of the problem was going from Divi to Elementor, apparently, is what I'm told. And there was a tool that you could run that cleaned up a lot of things. And then my very capable designer and web developer together made great changes. That's all I know. That's demand great. What I want, and they shake their wand, and it materializes.
Yeah, and you we're just, as we get into the personal dynamics of this, they work on, web stuff all the time. They're probably used to getting your guidance when it's a client that we're working on. But can you tell me anything about, how it was you're kind of doing like if they were outsourced from you, you would say, okay, here's what I want. But that's not the case here. You are an expert on marketing. You're an expert on the content that should be appearing on the website and how the user experiences it. So, take me through a little bit of what the dynamics are between people when you're trying to say, no, I want this. And they, know you well enough that if they felt like telling you off, they probably would. Tell me as it went, what was the blow by blow of getting the website actually launched with people that you work with regularly?
So it is an interesting exercise, and I'm going to say communication is paramount. Boundaries on both sides. So when I'm not making sense, or I'm pushing things in illogical order, or we're going to end up right back where we started, I really appreciate Rob on my team, who ironically is a bit of a jack of all trades. Full-time, he does Google Ads. I want to say PPC, our old-fashioned term. Part-time, he's also very skilled at Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, so plays a lot of role doing that. But he's also very skilled in web dev. So he is not a web dev by primary trade, but very skilled. Sure. And so the two of us together have enough knowledge to really get something done. Neither one of us are designers as a primary skill or a secondary skill or a tertiary skill. And so as the new website was in development, I wasn't quite in love with the design. And I would suggest some changes, and I'd see it, and it still didn't rock my world. Yep. So then I hired a colleague that I work with to consult, and Rob on my team, so consult on design, and Rob on my team would implement. And then that only went so far, and I realized that I need more of her, the designer. And so I very graciously talked to Rob about it to take it out of his hands at this point temporarily. and put it in the designer's hands. And he was so good about it. There's no egos at play here. These are not our primary skills. So let's bring in somebody for whom it is a primary skill. And that's how I run my business, right? Work is done by people for whom that is their primary skill. And so that should apply to my own needs as well. And Amanda did a tremendous job. I was very happy with the design. And she was also able to do some web dev stuff in the back. And then I slowly started bringing Rob back in to do some web dev. And basically we were ready to, well, as I said, the blog post didn't work. So a few patching of things, which was the most frustrating time, Glenn, I have to say. This period between the content being imported to the new website, therefore you cannot make changes on the existing website. I've learned that period needs to be as short as possible. It's very frustrating. So if you have a change of team members, or you are removing a service or adding a service, these are changes that need to be done to the website. And this period of having a new website not yet launched, but you're not allowed to touch the old website, is a horrible place to be. So I've learned that, and we don't want to keep clients there too long, and or choose a time of year to redo the website when they are not in that phase of making a lot of changes to the website, if there is such a period of time. So then basically Rob launched the new website. I did some basic SEO stuff for after a website launch, like checking for links that pointed to the development domain as opposed to the live domain, getting those fixed up. A couple of broken links, testing forms, making sure everything worked. So that was quite a busy time as well. But it also is a wonderful feeling to see, 99% of the website working as it should.
Yeah. And so just to give me an appreciation of this, the way you spoke about it reminded me of a move, and how inconvenient it is when the things that you normally just have at hand, they're tucked away in a box or on a truck, or so how long were you in that, from content freeze to new site launch? How long did that take?
I don't know. And it's like the move
Roughly,
analogy is really good.
Days, weeks, months?
I'm going to say a couple of weeks. The whole process felt like it took a long time, but I think it was about 3 months, maybe. Part of that was finding a design that you like, a theme that you like. But with the analogy of moving, it doesn't matter if it's 1 day or 3 weeks. If somebody feels frustrated and inconvenienced, it's a lifetime. It's a day too long.
Yes. Yeah. It's disorienting, right? And we all like to have things that we can say, oh no, this is not changing. This is fixed. And when you move a website, it does throw everyone for a loop that way. And we'll get in a minute to, how this cascades into talking with clients. But now that the site is up, are there any measures that you look at, any even back-end reports in analytics or Search Console that you look at and pat yourself on the back saying, yes, this wouldn't have been possible if I didn't change the site?
So in my ideal world, yes. And I certainly looked at some of those things. I'm pretty conversion oriented. So looking at form completions, that sort of idea. And before the website move, I had broken out some goals in Google Analytics to be more specific, in that when you go to book a call on my website, you choose whether you're an existing client or a prospective client. And I broke those out in Google Analytics, so that theoretically tracking call bookings by prospective clients would be a good metric. We kind of looked at things like bounce rate, that sort of idea, but I'll be honest, I wasn't really looking at that before.
Yeah.
So I feel like, these metrics can always be improved. So I was just always doing the work to improve those metrics without actually looking at those metrics.
Yeah. It's becoming more apparent if we look at what Google is doing with Search Console and their core web vitals. They're bringing that information to us. Even on WordPress, you can get the Google plugin, right, for your website. And this is what they're trying to do, is to kind of ring the bell right in front of you and say, look, these things need some attention, but on other areas you're doing fine. So
yeah, and you made me
there
realize
is some just sense of relief of knowing things are going fine.
Yeah, you made me realize too that I take for granted a lot of the things, the checks that I'm doing. So they're always sort of going on in the background, and I don't even sort of notice that I'm doing them.
Good practice that you follow there. And for people who don't, it's a good idea to see if you can have an email sent to yourself from the tool.
Yes, I definitely
That's
have
me,
an email.
by the way. I would forget otherwise.
I do have an email sent to myself from Google Analytics on the daily right now with broken links to fix. Haven't sort of taken the list of broken links from Screaming Frog and implemented it. I will get to it at some point. And all in a day's journey.
For sure. So bringing it back to the fact that people like you provide marketing services, help companies when they go through this sort of thing. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've learned in how to lessen the pain, or maybe even increase the satisfaction that someone has when you're trying to, midwife them through the delivery of a new website?
Aren't you good with analogies? So I have always felt when clients come and they want their website updated, they might say they want to change the look, but I learned a long time ago that if you read between the lines, they also want to improve their visibility in Google. Even though they don't say that, that is an expectation that clients have with a website redesign. Therefore, if you pry and you get that, reskinning a website is very different than maintaining traffic after a website redesign. Those require two different skill sets, maybe three: a designer, a developer, and an SEOer, as we maybe can call ourselves. So I think I might have learned in this process not to bite off so much at once. In an ideal world, when a client wants to redesign their website, some clients have the desire, capacity, and resources to work together to identify content that is not performing so well. And I guess in my case, I had been redesigning my navigation for a while on the current website, especially the past 6 months, using heat maps, making changes. So I wasn't fundamentally changing my navigation. So that made it easier. And I had an inkling of which content was not up to date. Like some of my my tool tips, I used to do like a tool tip Tuesday or Tool Tuesday, I think it was called, and that drives traffic, but it doesn't drive the traffic that will become a client for me. And so I would like to drop a lot of that traffic and just focus on bottom of the marketing funnel, clients who are looking for a consultant or an agency, and appeal to those clients. So instead of it being a lot of content, it might be better written content. So now when a client comes to me and wants a redesign, or to anybody, I think there's a lot of questions you need to ask, like what problem will redesigning your website solve? What emotions
Yes.
do you expect to have with the launch of the new website? And I think asking such seemingly bizarre questions will get you to what the client actually wants and help you understand whether you should start with a new platform, whether you should start with heat map testing and user experience testing on the current website to plan a new user experience on the new website. Do you start purging content now? Do you port all the content over to the new design and tweak the content later? Ultimately, it comes down to client expectations, when they
Yeah.
need or want to launch, and what resources they have available to work with you on that. It takes time and money to review all of the content and make huge SEO leaps. You have to ask yourself how many leads, how much business does the client actually get from SEO? Or is the website a bit of we'll call it an electronic business card for
Sure.
people that are referred to them, which is the way it is in my case. Most of my work is referred. My website is a business card and tells you a bit about me and hopefully helps pull you in to see if you want to work together. Do we share similar values and an interest in dogs? So I think all of these things come together, but this is why a website redesign does not cost $300.
Yeah. And if somebody tells you it should, then run.
Right? Even 3,000 is on the
Yeah.
low end.
Yeah. The things you said that just resonate with me are, you said, you have to be able to look at the constraints you're working in. And the way it was described to me once was as a triangle, right? And they say, you can have it quick, you can have it cheap, or you can have it good. Pick two of the
Right.
three, right?
Yes.
You can't do them all, and you do have to decide those boundaries. So that SEO, dream that someone might have of going crazy on every single last page, even one that hasn't been viewed for 5 years, that we have to chop it somewhere and make a decision because there's money and time on the line. But the other thing that I think that you said, which I felt is a really important point for clients, and I think you've set an amazing example of this, is to be deliberate and to do things that I suppose the inner marketer in you, says, oh, I wish I could keep all of those old pages. But, you're telling me, no, you showed some fierce, discipline to say, all right, I'm going to leave some stuff out. And that's for the sake of making sure that my site doesn't inundate people, that it does the job that I've ordained it to do, and that any SEO that comes from that should be of a higher quality audience because I'm not including all of that stuff. So if you can do it, I think that gives you a bit more backbone to turn to a client who's probably, trembling at the thought, and you can say to them, look, I did it, and it was okay. Things didn't fall to pieces. Right?
That's exactly it. They didn't fall to pieces. And, maybe a website redesign should be looked at as a month over month project, the way Google Ads is social media marketing. I never thought about it until now, but this would allow us to tackle everything as a project and in the proper order. In an ideal world, and it doesn't have to cost more, but in an ideal world, you might have a year to plan a website redesign. And the client is probably most focused on, the appearance, but this would allow you to upgrade the content.
Right.
everything, upgrade content, design, SEO, user experience, you name it, funnels.
You're reminding me. Yeah, you're reminding me of a webmaster and designer from a fair ways back. His name was Paul Boag, and having come through some massive site launches, done like you said, and of course not being given 12 months to do it. I'm sure it being very crunched. He he kind of had a, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore moment, and just started saying to fellow, web people, why don't you consider making the website something that you change ongoing? One thing I remember very clearly that he said was, the day after you've launched a new site, remember that that is the first day of the countdown until the next version of the website needs to be up. And he said, if you want to make it easy on yourself, just make the changes as you go. Yes, there might need to be, for business reasons, a change in brand, something like that. But you certainly are reducing the workload that someone down the road is facing if you just stay on top of it.
I don't think too many people do, for sure. I mean,
yeah, I could do a better job.
Well, are you on WordPress?
Yeah.
And is your WordPress backed up and up to date?
Yes.
Well, you are miles ahead of a lot of clients.
Yeah, that's an even scarier thought, is that if it were, well, if what you had was to go away today and you didn't have it backed up, you're already into a site redesign and you have no time.
Absolutely. Out of curiosity, Glenn, what do you think the lifespan of a website is these days before needing a major overhaul of some sort?
4 years, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And the cynic in me says that it may have more to do with the tenure of the people in the marketing department, right? So I think someone who comes into the marketing role has a decision fairly early on to make. Am I going to be the one changing this, or am I going to kick the can down the road? And yeah, we know that unfortunately marketing leadership has a pretty short shelf life, and the website sometimes does or doesn't get high on that list until someone comes along, or they're hired with the marching orders, thou shalt change the website. So
wow,
yeah,
what a burden.
Yeah, but I like your outlook that you can, if you just go at it a little bit more regularly, if you use reports, keep the priorities there, like triage it, that you should be able to have a website that is almost self-rejuvenating, or at least the major parts of it, on a, semi-annual or annual basis. And that's way less work for someone who's looking at something that's literally like an archaeology dig.
There are aspects of my site that are definitely an archaeological dig. I think it boils down to, we do this with clients. We ask them what are their primary marketing channels. And if SEO is one of your primary channels that you expect to create leads from, then regular updates to the website, to the content, to the functionality, to the appearance, I guess, should be factored into the budget.
Mm-hmm. Can't argue with that logic. So, Darlene, we've been talking so long about this website. If people want to go check it out and check you out, where can they go?
So my website, need to hurry and fix some broken links, but it can be found at www.drivetraffic.ca. Feel free to drop me a hello. You can find me on LinkedIn, Darlene Moore.
All right, we'll have those links in the show. And I really appreciate coming on today, and I hope that people got a lot of value. Thank you very much. We'll have those in the show notes. And I know that I got value out of today, Darlene, and I hope that the listener did too. And if they like what they heard today, I would encourage them to not only check out your website, but to also share this episode with a friend who's maybe been reluctant to overhaul their website so that they can hear from you on how it's not so bad.
When your day comes to overhaul your website, I will be a shoulder here for you to cry on.
Yes, I look forward to that, and I'll take you up on that. And I hope that the people listening here found at least one thing that they heard today that's going to help them make their funnel even better.
Thanks very much, Glenn.
Thanks for listening. Follow the show on Twitter @Funnel Reboot. If you like what you have heard today, please consider leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts.